All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. By everybody, I mean Cutie Pie. This is a new Twitch stream, excuse me, that I just started. Last Monday. So this is only my second week streaming. And yeah, I started this channel because I just wanted to take a couple hours a night to do a stream about things that I'm researching, things that I think are cool, spend some time learning about new topics, and thought maybe that would be fun to do on Twitch live. And maybe occasionally I might get somebody to pop in, say hi, and do a little bit of research with me. So, yeah, new stream. This is only my second Tuesday. And every Tuesday on Cool Beans Hot Stuff, or excuse me, this is Wednesday. Wow. Man, I'm losing track of the days here. It's all that yard work I was doing today. It blends in with all the yard work I did yesterday. Today is Wednesday, and every Wednesday on this channel is Wildlife Wednesday. So today we're going to be going over carnivorous plants. Every Wildlife Wednesday we go over some kind of like animal. Last week we went over some what did we go over last week? Giant spiders, the Jabba Fofi. So if you really like giant spiders, if you do tune into the stream or you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out that previous Wednesday on my YouTube channel, Cool Beans Hot Stuff, and check out a 2-hour stream on researching the Jabba Fofi and other giant spider cryptids. So we'll do stuff like that on Wednesdays. We'll be researching like cryptids, cryptozoology at least one day a week. At least one day a week, I kind of wanted to focus maybe on plants or some unusual unknown animal. And then there'll be another day in the week where I jump into some sort of natural phenomenon, like unexplainable phenomenon or different types of storms. We had a bunch of tornado warnings that happened out here in Tennessee last week, and gave me the brilliant idea that it would be kind of cool to do a stream on Tornado Alley. Tornado Alley, if y'all don't know, is a specific area of the Midwest that is very prone to tornadoes. Hence Tornado Alley. Next week on Wildlife Wednesday, we'll be doing odd foods from around the world. And I got to be honest with you, I kind of just shoved that one in there. That doesn't really go with wildlife per se. But, and for most of those interesting foods, it is wildlife that you are eating. So I guess that kind of fits. And then the last Wednesday of the month, we're going over newly discovered animals in 2024. Because there are some really cool animals that were discovered this last year that I thought it would make for a really cool stream. But today, like I said, we're going to be going over carnivorous plants. My basic rundown here, let me reference my handy dandy professional note card. We're going to be going over what are carnivorous plants. I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, but maybe not. So we're going to go over it just to make sure we're all on the same page. We're going to go over how many exist, what the different types of traps are that they use to trap their prey. And then I'm going to take a rundown of some of my favorites. And then I'm going to go dive into a guilty pleasure, and we are going to cover some carnivorous plant cryptids, which is carnivorous plants that may or may not exist. I want to do a quick rundown on that because that'll probably be its own stream at some point. You can spend a whole 2 hours talking about unusual carnivorous plants that people claim exist, but we haven't found yet. But we will be doing that a little bit. If you do hop on the stream at some point, if I do get people in on the stream, and for a reference on people who are on YouTube, if you ever want to come over and watch the stream on Twitch live, you should be able, on the right side of your screen, there's a little pink box that you should be able to click on that's running a poll for this stream. On most streams, I run some kind of a poll on. This stream, I'm running a poll on what's the coolest carnivorous plant. So I'll reference that throughout the stream. And at the end of the stream, one day when I finally get some followers up in here, we'll have a poll running to decide what everybody thinks is the coolest carnivorous plant. But in the meantime, it's just me talking and my cutie pie listening while she makes some super yummy fried chicken up in the kitchen. And yeah, other than that, So it's kind of just me doing my own thing today, which is pretty nice. It gives me some time to kind of work my way into doing the whole streaming thing, getting better at, getting my setup together while I work on that and work on becoming a better presenter and other shite. So anyways, let's go ahead. That's my rundown, my beginner's rundown. Let's go ahead and jump into it so we don't lose any more time, because I do got a lot of web pages to cover for you guys today for all you who are interested in carnivorous plants. We're going to start here with a couple minutes of a video I got from YouTube. This is Epic Gardening's YouTube channel. They're a pretty big YouTube channel. They got 3.7 million subscribers. This is their video on how carnivorous plants work. So they're going to give us a rundown of just how they work, where some of them come from, and then they dive. This is a 15-minute long video. We're not going to watch the whole video, just the first 2 minutes, just so we can kind of hear their intro, because let's be real, they could probably do a much better intro than I can, right? So we're going to let them do their intro, give us some information, then we'll read a little bit of our own information, and then jump into all the kick-ass types of plants that exist. So let's check these people.
In my literal version of hell, because I'm in a human-sized pitcher plant, which would have been slowly digesting me over the course of 3 days. Fortunately, pitcher plants tend to be a little bit smaller, and they're not even the only way that carnivorous plants obtain nutrients to help themselves grow. So in this video, you're gonna learn all about the secrets of carnivorous plants, how to care for them properly without killing them, and how they can make you a better gardener. So it's a beautiful, gloomy day. It's very foggy, very humid in here at the San Diego Botanic Garden. And I see the man I'm trying to talk to, Ari Novi, CEO.
Hey, Kevin.
I almost slipped right there. It's so foggy.
Don't sue us.
I will not sue. I'm just in awe of the setup here. But before we dive into some of these environments you guys have crafted, the question has to be asked, and it's something I wondered even when I was in like maybe first grade. Why would a plant become carnivorous? It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's actually super simple. These plants all evolved in places where they have very poor ability to get nitrogen. And every gardener knows nitrogen, that's one of the big ones that we want. One. And these plants have to come up with creative ways to get nitrogen out of the ecosystem.
That's actually true. I'm going to stop for a split second, fair use and all that whatnot. Yeah, that nitrogen shit is not fucking around. I don't know how many people end up watching this video are gardeners. I just bought a house and have recently been doing a lot of research into doing some gardening. I'm going to plant some sunflower seeds by a fence that I have. I got little chili peppers that I'm going to be growing around a cement pad in my backyard. And then I'm really working on getting my front and backyards looking a lot better, because man, they're just big ass patches of weeds at this point. And looking into reseeding my lawn and all the bullshit I got to do to get that fixed, looking into all the different kinds of soils and ways to grow these sunflower seeds, because they're kind of hybrid seeds, and that they're a little bit more difficult to grow than your regular sunflower. Burp. I get at least 5 of those every stream, just randomly pops up in the middle of a sentence. Through all that research, yeah, the key to plants growing well is nitrogen. It's a pretty big deal to these plants. So yeah, they're not messing around when they say that. Nitrogen's a big deal.
The system that they're in, and they've all figured out how to eat bugs.
Okay, so that brings you to the next obvious question is, I see this right here. This must be a facsimile of the type of environment that they're in, and what is that environment? Like, why would there not be nitrogen in something like this?
So one of the environments where nitrogen is lacking are eastern freshwater bogs in the United States. And so what we've created here, even though we're in arid San Diego on top of concrete, is a facsimile of an eastern bog. And what we see here are a lot of different...
Facsimile? It means like a recreation or a copy or a emulation of the thing, in case you didn't know. They said that word a couple times. I just learned that word a few months ago, maybe like a year ago, and thought it was a cool word. So I just wanted to brag a little bit about how I know what that word means.
Sarracenia pitcher plant hybrids, and in some cases some straight species, and these are native to the eastern and southern United States, and they are able to grow in these high acidity bogs where the acid conditions of the water, as well as a few other conditions, mean that even though nitrogen is there, it is not available to the plant.
Right. We actually talked about this a long time ago in Epic Gardening when I was in my hydroponic phase, because you're controlling the pH of your water in that situation, and if you go too low or too high, you get that nutrient lockout. And these plants are effectively just in an environment where they're locked out of what may be available in nitrogen, maybe not, but if it was, like you said, they can't get it. And so I know we have a couple other examples over here.
Yeah.
Perfect time for an ad. That like never happens on YouTube. Anytime you get ads on YouTube, they're always in the worst possible place. You'll have a guy like right in the middle of a sentence that's like super important. They'll be revealing the fucking plot to their video, and then boop, goes to a fucking 5 minute long advertisement for a VPN or some shit. But that was perfect. Okay, so that's the general idea of how carnivorous plants come about, why carnivorous plants are carnivorous, because it's their way of getting nitrogen. This is an adaptation to growing in places where it are not very nitrogen rich. So we're going to do a little bit more reading into this. What are carnivorous plants? Carnivorous plants attract and trap and digest animals for the nutrients they contain. There are currently around 630 species of carnivorous plants known to science. That's pretty crazy. I was not expecting that. When I researched this topic initially, I was like, whoa, that's a shit ton of carnivorous plants eating shit out there. I actually did type that number in, how many species are there, and I actually got a bunch of different answers. One web page told me there's 800, another page told me there's like 720, these people say 630, but in general, it's somewhere around 600 to 800 different species between all these different sources that I looked at. Still, though, that's a lot more than I ever suspected. All I knew of was the Venus flytrap, right? Because that's the famous one, and we'll get into that guy later in the stream. All right, continuing. Although most meat-eating plants consume insects, larger plants are capable of digesting reptiles and small mammals. Smaller carnivorous plants specialize in single-celled organisms, such as bacteria and protozoa. And aquatic examples also eat crustaceans, mosquito larvae, and small fish. We'll be getting into all those. The fuckers that take down the little rats, the mice, which is really sad. I hate those ones, the ones that eat the cute little frogs and the cute little mice. I think those are cute little animals. I don't want to see them eaten by some giant, like, raw carnivorous plant. We'll also be getting in, excuse me, we'll also be getting into some of the aquatic ones, too, that eat the larvae and the small fish. I actually got a interesting video. Interesting is subjective, but I got a video of them doing that. So we'll look at that here in a minute. Carnivory is such an efficient adaptation that it has evolved independently several times and occurs in unrelated plant families. But while it's great for nutrient top-up, carnivory doesn't replace the need for photosynthesis and root systems. Being carnivorous simply helps the plants make the most of all available resources. And so where do they live? We did see a map in that very first video that we just watched, the intro video. You get a lot of carnivorous plants that actually happen in the southern United States, closer to the coastlines, where you get those freshwater bogs. But they live in a lot of different places, actually. The habitats of carnivorous plants are varied, see, I told you, but usually involve wet, low-nutrient sites including bogs, swamps, water bodies, watercourses, forests, and sandy or rocky sites. Carnivorous plants can be found on every continent except Antarctica, and there are many species native to the UK, including sundews, butterworts, and bladderworts. We'll be going over sundews and bladderworts. I think butterworts, was that what it? Butterworts? Butterworts. We don't go over those specifically, but we will be checking out the sundews and the bladderworts because they're kind of cool. Common butterworts. Oh, good. So here's something about the butterworts. Grows throughout the UK on bogs, fens, wet heaths, and moors. This plant employs sticky mucilage on the leaf surface to secure its prey. Purple blossoms appear atop a long stalk to help keep pollinators from their carnivorous leaves. Found only near the summit of Mount Victoria on the island of Palawan in the Philippines, Attenborough's pitcher plant is currently endangered. One of the largest of all carnivorous plants, it grows 1.5 meters tall and produces pitchers that are 30 centimeters in diameter and is capable of digesting rodents. So there's a picture of that one right there. That's a big boy. Yep. How do carnivorous plants attract their prey? Well, carnivorous plants use a variety of strategies to lure prey into their traps. Some produce strong-smelling nectar and have intense coloration that mimic flowers. Others camouflage themselves seamlessly into their surroundings so that victims blunder into them. The intense coloration of trapping organs can give the impression that they are flowers when they are, in fact, ingeniously adapted leaves. Carnivorous plants keep prey separate from useful pollinating insects by growing their real flowers at the end of long stalks, which blossom as far as possible from tempting and deadly digestive organs. Look at those. Those are actually pretty. Those are really pretty plants right there. How do they digest their food? Most carnivorous plants produce digestive enzymes that dissolve their prey into a nutritious bug stew. Yummy. Some provide an enticing home for symbiotic bacteria that they depend upon to break down their catch for them. How do they capture their prey? Well, there's a whole lot of different ways, actually. There are hundreds of different species, each with unique adaptations. Carnivorous plants can be classified into 5 groups based on their trapping methods. And these 5 groups are pitfall traps. Pitfall traps are formed by a single leaf or rosettes, forming tubular or pitcher-shaped traps. Prey is drawn to nectar at the pitcher rim. A slippery substance at the rim causes prey to lose its footing and slip into the base, which is filled with digestive fluid. These would be your typical pitcher plants. Oh, looks like that cute little rat's about to get fucked. Oh no. Cobra plants. Unusual. Oh, these are going into, okay, here's adhesive traps. Yeah, we don't go over cobra plants, but we'll kind of scroll up again. They're called cobra plants because of this kind of, they look like a snake head right here. And then they got these 2 leaves that flare out, but they have a similar, they also exist in that pitfall trap category. Okay, adhesive traps is another kind of trap that they use. That's the second. Adhesive traps lure insects and other small prey with sweet, sticky droplets that look like nectar or dewdrops. Small insects are immobilized by the sticky slime, and larger victims may struggle to break free, coating themselves further in the mucilage. Death is usually indirect via suffocation. Some varieties of adhesive traps will actively curl their sticky tentacles around their struggling victims, and we will get into those kinds too. I believe those are the sundews. Snap traps. These are the ones that everybody is mostly familiar with. Some carnivorous plants catch their prey in snap closing traps made of modified leaf blades. Drawn by the promise of a flower, the insect or small reptile entering the trap stimulates sensitive trigger hairs. These send an electrophysiological impulse. Wow, I can't believe I got that word. Usually I struggle with these big words like a motherfucker during stream, but electrophysiological impulse to snap the leaf bleed shut and ensnare the visitor. Once a meal is secured, the leaf secretes a digestive fluid to reabsorb the animal protein. And that would include your Venus flytrap. And we got some water wheel plants that do the same thing. We're going to go over those later. Snare traps is number 4. Disguised as safe and delicious root structures, snare traps specialize in capturing single-celled organisms such as protozoans and ciliates, which they attract through chemicals. Organisms enter the snare trap through the opening slits and tubular projections, and unidirectional hairs shepherd the tiny organisms into a digestive bladder. And that would be the corkscrew plant. I think that's about the only one. Oh, parrot pitcher plant, I guess, does the same thing. Okay. We will go over the corkscrew plant a little bit. It's kind of a hard plant to find information on. And then we have suction traps. Suction traps are a feature of many aquatic carnivorous plants. Prey animals are drawn to lures at the trap entrance that mimic food or shelter. A prey's proximity to the trap trap entrance, triggers a valve trap door to open into a hollow bladder, creating suction that then flushes the prey inside. The trap door then quickly swings shut and the entrance is sealed with slime to prevent escape. And that would include your bladderworts. So we're going to go over bladderworts here in a little bit. So there's your 5 basic types of traps. You got your suction traps, snare traps, snap traps, adhesive traps, and what was the pitcher plants one? Pitfall traps. And they do have slightly different names from place to place. Like there is other names for the pitfall traps. I think is also called well, it's called something else. Same with the adhesive plants. They have another name for them too. We'll see what these other names are here and there. We'll run into them, but that's the general gist, right? So you got a fuck ton of carnivorous plants that exist, 630 different species. They exist all over the world for the most part, especially in areas with low nitrogen like bogs and places like that. They have a lot of different methods for eating their prey. But they all fall into 5 different categories. So I think we're going to go ahead and jump into some good examples, my favorite examples of each different type. We're going to start with the oh shoot, I already clicked out of it. What do they call it? The pitfall trap. We're going to start with a good example of the pitfall trap, which is your basic pitcher plant. Okay, that kind of, the guy talked about that pitcher plant in the initial video that we watched. And here is a little bit more information about it. So this is your basic pitfall trap, right? So any carnivorous plant with pitcher-shaped leaves that form a passive pitfall trap. That's what a pitcher plant is. Old world pitcher plants are members of the family Nepenthaceae. Nepenthaceae. I think I got that one right too. I'm close, pretty close. While those of the New World belong to the family, I'm not going to get even close to that one. Let's try Sarracenicia. Sarracenicia. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think that sounded pretty fucking professional, right? The Western Australian pitcher plant is the only species of the family. Gosh, they're just going over all these words, man, making it hard on me. Pitcher plants are found in a wide range of habitats with poor soil conditions, from pine barrens to sandy coastal swamps, and rely on carnivory to obtain nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus. We're aware of that. So the family Sarracenia consists of 3 genera of pitcher plants and is distributed throughout North America and the western portion of the Guiana Highlands in South America. Members of this family commonly inhabit bogs, swamps, wet and sandy meadows, and savannas where the soil or water saturated, acidic, and deficient in nutrients. The carnivorous traps of this family commonly resemble trumpets, pitchers, or urns and primarily capture insects. All right. That includes the cobra plant that we talked about earlier. The cobra plant is the only species of its genus. It is a pretty unique looking one and is native to swamps in mountain areas of Northern California and Southern Oregon. Its hooded pitcher-like leaves resemble striking cobras and bear purple-red appendages that look similar to a snake's forked tongue or a set of fangs. Unlike other pitcher plants, the cobra plant does not appear to produce digestive enzymes and instead relies on bacteria to break down its prey. So you can see how that picture there, that kind of looks like a cobra's head right there. And then you got the tongue coming out right there. It is an interesting looking plant. Let's see. The family of Nepenthaceae. I'm getting so good at these words, I tell you. Might as well just become a scientist. Consists of a single genus, Nepenthes, with some 140 species of tropical pitcher plants native to Madagascar, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Most of these species are perennials that grow in very acidic soil, though some are epiphytic and live on the branches of trees. The lid of the pitcher secretes nectar to attract prey, which are unable to escape from the trap because of its downward pointing hairs and slick slides. Let's see. Ooh. Yeah, I forgot I have a good video on. We can watch one of these types of pitcher plants capturing its prey. So, yeah. And let's see. This would be that Attenborough's pitcher plant. Gets all the way up to 5 feet tall. And the pitchers are 11 inches, about 12 inches in diameter. So that's a pretty big ass pitcher plant, right? I mean, that's big enough for you to stick your arm in, 5 feet tall. Those must be the ones that kill the mice. Found near the summit of Mount Victoria on the island of Palawan in the Philippines, Attenborough pitcher plants are capable of capturing and digesting rodents, well, there you go, as well as insects and other small animals. That's pretty interesting. So that's the biggest carnivorous plant that exists right there, an Attenborough pitcher plant. And then we'll dive, let's see, what is this? This is the third family of pitcher plants. This family, because I'm not going to even try this, Cephalotacea features only one genus with a single species, the Western Australian pitcher plant, which is a pretty ugly little sucker. You know, I don't know about that guy. Looks sickly. The plant is a small perennial herb native to damp, sandy, or swampy terrain in Southeast Australia. Unlike most other pitcher plants, it bears traditional leaves in addition to its pitfall traps. Its short green pitchers are protected by a hairy red and white striped lid that prevents rainfall from filling the trap and attracts prey. Given its limited range and the threat of habitat loss, this species is listed as vulnerable. So there you have it. And this is going into random facts about insects for some reason. So those are some good facts about pitcher plants. You know, to me, pitcher plants are kind of the more boring of the carnivorous plants, although they do seem to be the most common as far as species go. They are, you know, not the most amazing as far as like the different traps that grow, particularly watching plants. Ooh, look at that one. I don't know if that's a bat that's about to get its ass eaten. Oh, okay. So yeah, this one, I did have to read a little bit about this. Okay, so I'm glad that I remembered that this was in here somewhere. I've been kind of looking for this. So this is a type of pitcher plant, the shrew pitcher plant. Okay, and so if we look here, they say that that's probably a shrew, I imagine. It looks like a squirrel. And then here is the pitcher plant. He's sitting right on that guy. And what does it look like he's doing to that poor pitcher plant, right? It looks like he's doing something unsavory to that poor fellow. And it's exactly what you're probably thinking. So, speaking of guano, the N. hemislea isn't the only pitcher plant to feast on feces. A number of other species have the honorable role of playing toilet to tree shrews, which feast on nectar on the underside of the pitcher plant leaves before leaving a nitrogen-rich deposit behind. Unlike most pitcher plants, these plants no longer have slippery mouths at the pitcher opening, giving the tree shrews a safe place to squat. They also produce the largest known amount of nectar for any pitcher plant, likely an adaptation to keep their tree shrews happy, full, and regularly in need of a toilet. So there you go. Yeah, so that's how that plant right there lives. Actually, it looks like it's not enjoying it, but that's that plant's fetish, right? The shrew pitcher plant has got a pretty odd fetish going on with that shrew. Okay, and then we have the fanged pitcher plant. This one was kind of a neat pitcher plant. As far as pitcher plants go, these are the more interesting of the bunch. So, while other plants have figured out the value of poop, Nepenthes bicolacaraca whatever requires a bit more from its mutualistic relationships. This species has developed a symbiotic relationship with a species of ant called, they're giving me the scientific names of all this like I'm smart enough to pronounce it. Just tell me what it is. Camponotus schmitzi. Okay. While the ants do provide an offering of poop, well, that's good to know, I guess, they do even more for the pitcher plant. They clean the pitcher's mouth to make sure it's good and slippery to catch prey. They attack the weevils that want to eat the plant, they remove the carcasses of previously digested prey, and they attack any prey trying to escape. In return, they have found a home, sweet home in the plant's hollow tendrils and are given a never-ending buffet of nectar. A win-win all around. So this baby right here literally has an army of little ants living inside it that help it kill all the other bugs that are inside of it. How crazy is that? And then we got one more interesting thing here. So here's the tadpole nursery pitcher plant, and it is called as such for a reason. Look at that cute little guy right there. Inside of that plant, right above a pool of digestive enzymes. Sure, the innards of a carnivorous plant may not be the ideal nursery for all species, but for one of the world's smallest frogs, it's perfect for raising a brood of tadpoles. These frogs won't lay eggs anywhere else, and they find relative safety for their offspring, which mature into tiny froglets after several weeks before finally leaving the pitcher plant for the great big world. Kind of cool, right? So this is a pitcher plant. What was it? The tadpole nursery pitcher plant that actually acts as the name implies, a nursery for this frog's tadpoles. And then this one works with ants to kill your ass, and then this one doesn't kill anything, it just eats shit. But as far as carnivorous plants go, that's kind of interesting. Ooh, I'm glad we didn't click out of that. I have a 1.5-minute informational, educational video for all you youngins out there about pitcher plants. I think this one actually just goes over all the various types of plants a little bit more. It's a quick video though.
If you are already kind of creeped out by carnivorous plants like this pitcher plant, a new study detailing how exactly they trap their prey probably won't help. That's because the study, which looked at the Nepenthes rafflesiana species, found that the plant is pretty crafty when it comes to trapping ants, its largest food source. The plant takes advantage of the fact that ants are social animals. Instead of trapping every ant that comes by, it lets the scout ants escape.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so I remember this video. This plant is pretty fucking crazy, actually. You got to check it out. This is actually cool.
It lets the scout ants escape and waits until the whole group shows up to spring the trap.
Rewind that so you don't miss it.
Instead of trapping every ant that comes by, it lets the scout ants escape and waits until the whole group shows up to spring the trap. It does that by leaving part of its pitcher dry for the scout ant before wetting the pitcher when more ants show up, leading it to capture batches of ants instead of individuals. The lead author on the study, Bristol University's Dr. Ulrika Bauer, has examined this kind of behavior in other pitcher plants, previously noting how plants adjust the slipperiness of their pitchers to trap more ants. As the study notes, the plant deactivating its trap from time to time to prevent capturing scout ants doesn't seem to make sense from an evolutionary perspective, because presumably the plant would want to trap all the ants it could. But by catching ants in batches through turning the trap on and off, ultimately the plant trapped more ants than always having the trap on, which means plants that had the on
Look
and
at all
off
those
feature
ants
would have survived
digesting.
and reproduced more successfully. The study makes a point of clarifying that
That's
it's a
kinda
more
creepy.
viable strategy for larger plants than for smaller plants, because larger plants have more pitchers and therefore a higher chance of catching batches of ants. The researchers also wrote the behavior helps explain why the ability to create a more slippery pitcher surface is present across species of Nepenthes. For Newsy, I'm Sebastian Martinez.
Isn't that wicked? That blew my fucking mind. So this plant is a smart little shit. It's a thinker. It is the thinker of the pitcher plants. You know, you thought the one that ate poop was smart, probably, right? That guy is smart. Like, he can de-slick or add more slime essentially to his inside when more ants come and show up. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was a neat adaptation. It makes it seem like this plant knows what it's doing, which is kind of a creepy idea in general, that these plants eat shit but can also think. That's not what's really happening there, but that's what it seems like, and that's kind of cool. So anyways, moving on from pitcher plants, we got the Portuguese sundew. So this is actually kind of a cool plant. Here's a couple pictures of this guy. This is its little tendrils and all these kind of pretty, actually, little dewdrops on there. These are the sticky things that it uses to collect its prey, to make them basically trap them, and that's what it looks like. There's some prey trapped in that bitch. Can we zoom in? We can zoom in. Look at that. Okay, so bigger pictures of bugs. You don't really want to see that, but bugs getting eaten. This is what the plant looks like when it has flowers. There's another bug about to get his ass eaten. And see these little things, they actually curl up around the bug, which is pretty crazy. And it's actually, I mean, as far as plants go, it's an unusual looking plant. It just looks like a whole thing of tentacles shooting up out of the ground, right? Its flowers are kind of pretty. Okay, there you go. So that's what it looks like. So this is inaturalist.org, which I tend to avoid using Wikipedia. So I went to use inaturalist.org, and turns out that they're using Wikipedia. But so it is what it is. But all right, so let's try this scientific word, Drosophilum. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Okay, Drosophilum is a genus of carnivorous plants containing the single species Drosophilum lucidanicum, commonly known as Portuguese sundew or dewy pine. In appearance, it is similar to the related genus Dorsera, the sundews, and to much more distant related Biblis, the rainbow plants. So, okay, sundews cover the adhesive traps, right? So that for the pitcher plants that we just looked at, that's a good example of the pitfall traps. This is a good example of your adhesive traps. Okay, so what was in it? Portuguese sundew. Portuguese sundew is a perennial carnivorous plant with woody stems at the base, short, simple, or rarely branched, tortuous or erect. Leaves are basal in a dense rosette, sessile, linear, sheathed, circinate, covered with sessile and pedunculated glands. Well, I hope you all understood that, because I sure as fuck didn't. I don't know what they're talking about there. They're talking about the flower. They're talking about the flower and what it looks like. Distribution and habitat. Where are these guys at now? I already forgot the name again. Portuguese sundew. The Portuguese sundew is native to western Mediterranean regions through Portugal, southwest Spain, and northern Morocco, and is one of the few carnivorous plants to grow in dry soil. It grows mainly in clearings of scrub, mainly heather, pine forests, evergreen forests, and sunny heaths. In dry places and silicone, gravel, or shale substrates somewhat disturbed. It is a strictly calcific species from sea level up to 1,200 meters in altitude. Ecology. Insect prey stuck. Oh, that's a That's what the photo is showing us right there. Okay. The plant has a distinct sweet aroma which attracts the insects upon which it preys. When insects land on the leaves, they find themselves stuck to the mucilage secreted by the stalked glands on the leaves. The more the insects struggle, the more ensnared they become, ultimately dying of suffocation or exhaustion. The plant then secretes enzymes which dissolve the insects and release the nutrients, which are then absorbed by the plant. The plant uses these nutrients to supplement the nutrient-poor soil in which it grows. The genus has always been assumed to be closely allied to Drosera and was previously placed in the Droseraceae. Think I nailed that. Recent molecular and biochemical studies, however, placed it in the monotypic. Okay, we're not going to jump into all these big words again. Even more big words, going to give us a classification. Not even going to try that. So we got a good idea of how it's supposed to work, or at least a good description of how it's supposed to work. We know where it lives. Let's actually take a look at it in action, huh? What do you say? Let's check this out.
Covered in long, sticky tentacles, the sundew is a predatory plant that looks like it's from another planet. Their cute leaves and bright red stalks, which seem to capture and sweeten the morning dew, are the perfect landing spot for an insect.
Isn't that crazy how they like curl around it? I really like the tentacle ones. This video is just about sundews in general. Those long tentacle ones that like rah, and like wrap around the little bug. Those are the Portuguese sundew, which I thought were the coolest of the sundew families. This video is just about sundews in general, but you can see how they all do kind of a similar thing where they just stick the bug in there and then curl up around the little fucker.
For some, it'll be their last. In sundew country, no one can hear you scream.
Hey, I'm Tasha the Amazon, and you're watching Floralogic. Sundews are members of the genus Drosera.
There are about 200 species worldwide, and they live in every continent except Antarctica. They're mostly found in Africa and in Australia, the land that constantly wants to put you 6 feet under. Charles Darwin was fascinated by these plants and wrote about them extensively. While trying to understand their evolutionary history, he said, "I care more about Drosera than the origin of all other species in the world." He was even the first person to report that, on average, it takes Drosera 15 minutes to kill its prey.
Like most other carnivorous plants, their meat eating is an adaptation for life in nutrient-poor soil.
Their prey is consumed not for
kind of already
energy,
know that.
but for their proteins, which get broken down into nitrogen and used to fertilize the plant. Their roots are great at absorbing water, but pretty much useless at sucking in nutrients. Some species don't even have the enzymes necessary to extract nitrates from the soil.
Since there are so many species, their morphology varies a lot.
Most species have flat leaves. Pink sundews, which are abundant throughout Florida, are one of the most common examples of this. They're easy landing spots for a myriad of insects, but can also be easier to escape. Some, like the North American thread-leaved sundew, have tube-like leaves that unfurl as they grow. The leaves are thin, but they generate enough sticky juice to catch larger insects, like wasps. Others, such as the common sundew, which can be found in northern latitudes throughout the world, have almost spherical
Those are
leaves.
kind of pretty too.
This makes it possible for them to catch prey coming from all directions.
But what
Those-
they all have
Those pink sundew and the common sundew are actually pretty. They're pretty. They're pretty plants.
in common is the tentacles on their leaves.
They're usually red, which gives the plant an alien-like appearance, and have 2 types of glands on them. The first type secretes the sweet, sticky nectar that attracts and snares insects. The second type makes the digestive juices to break down its prey's soft tissue.
Over the eons, there have been several genera of carnivorous plants that use glue trap strategy to catch prey. What sets the sundew
See, so I told you that you're going to hear different names for all the different types, right? You had adhesive type traps. This lady, what was her name? Tasha the Amazon, called them glue traps. We're going to be coming back to her channel a couple times. I don't know if this is her channel or somebody else's channel, and she just does the speaking for it. But Animal Logic is the name of the channel. It's a pretty big channel. 2 million subscribers, 1.4 million views on this video alone. Kind of cool. Yeah, so we'll be coming back to this channel frequently to watch what they have to say about all these different carnivorous plants, because they got a lot of information. They seem to like them even more than you and
is
me.
that their tentacles fold in the direction of their prey to maximize points of contact.
Upon landing, the tentacles get activated and move towards the prey. The insect will struggle,
Man, that's so
but
cool.
soon it'll get tired and drown in the sweet nectar.
In some species, this can
vicious,
take up to
though.
a quarter of
Ooh.
an hour. In others, it's just a matter of seconds. Then, the digestive process begins.
Some species, such as the Cape sundew, take it even further by also folding the leaves at the same time as the tentacles in order to fully envelop the insect.
That's the sundew we're talking
Nobody
about.
knows for sure.
That's the one I think's the coolest. It's maybe not as pretty as the little pink fella, but it's pretty badass. That's wicked. It reminds me of like an octopus. It's like sucking in with its. I don't know if octopuses make that sound, but my octopuses do. For reference, they go and they fucking suck them right in.
For sure
with their
how they
tentacles.
move their leaves and tentacles, or how they can tell whether it's prey or just debris.
Oh, there's
It's
a
suspected
close-up
that the
of it
movement is caused
digesting.
by chain
Good thing I'm
reactions
not
inside
eating.
the cells to make them more acidic and make the cell walls more flexible, which causes the cells to expand.
So, it's a very complicated process, but the results are amazing.
People have been fascinated by these plants for hundreds of years and have used it as a way to treat a myriad of ailments. Their leaves are used to treat coughs and ulcers and as an aphrodisiac, though their only proven medical quality is as an expectorant.
Because of their beauty and their unadulterated awesomeness, they're now also common in the ornamental plant business.
The most common ones are Cape sundews and spoonleaf sundews, such as these ones, one of the hardiest Droseras. They produce lots of seeds and require relatively little attention. It's a great beginner's Drosera. This one over here is actually a hybrid called Drosera andromeda. It doesn't move at all when fed, but it's a great plant for cooler conditions.
Aren't they the cutest?
Of course, if you decide to get a sundew or any other plant, make sure you do proper research. They can be very sensitive to minerals in tap water and other external factors in your home.
Okay, so we're not going to dive too deep into that. We are going to go into growing some of these guys just a teeny weeny bit, but I'm saving that for one of my faves. Either way, though, yeah, it is cool to know. You can go out, buy yourself a pack of seeds, and grow your own sundew, which is kind of neat. I might have to look into that because I'm growing plants all over my house. Well, I'm not now, but I'm making plans to start growing plants outside my house. I don't think you're going to have any sundews that are going to last outside in Nashville anytime soon, but I might give some of these a try. It'd be kind of cool to have some indoors maybe, right? So we're going to move on. There's the sundew. We spent a little while on that. Now we're going to move on to the next one. These are the bladderworts. Okay, like I said, we'll go over the bladderwort one because they're kind of cool. You know, I mean, cool is subjective. As far as the two that we've looked at, I do think, let's see, I think the sundews are cooler than the pitcher plants, in my humble opinion. I just like the mechanism a lot better. They're prettier, and that idea. Oh, I don't think I got that burp. I thought I got it. I didn't. I don't know. Go pretend like it never happened. Moving on. The mechanism by which the plant kind of curls in on itself with that octopus arm is freaky. A lot freakier than the pitcher plant, which, some of them eat shit, bro. So if that's your favorite, I don't know what to tell you. Bladderwort guide. How this carnivorous plant pond catches its unsuspecting prey fast. All right. So, one moment a water flea is peeing its way around its pond microcosm. The next it has seemingly vanished. The unlucky crustacean has fallen victim to the fastest movement in the plant world, the great bladderwort. As cool as this one could ever possibly get, it's never going to outlive that name, bladderwort. That's just that sounds like the name of a Harry Potter, like Voldemort, right? That sounds like the name of a Harry Potter character, bladderwort. I'm a writer. That would be kind of a cool name for a bad guy. Plants are not known for their speed, nor are they the first thing that comes to mind when you consider what might eat a water flea in a pond, and there are many. But this particular flea had the misfortune of bumping into the greater bladderwort, probably one of the most interesting yet overlooked plants. So, what is a bladderwort? Bladderwort is a carnivorous pond plant. None of the UK's carnivorous plants make themselves particularly obvious. The bladderworts, of which there are multiple British species, are even more obscure. They are relatively localized and thrive only in nutrient-poor habitats. Even here, they live below the surface of the ponds, lakes, and ditches, out of sight and out of mind. So yeah, this is definitely not people's typical choice when they think of a carnivorous plant. Most people, I don't think, even realize that these suckers exist. So what does it look like? Among the assorted water weeds, bladderworts seem to melt away. It is almost translucent, a delicate mesh of pale yellow-green stems with hairy, unleaf-like leaves and no roots, which gives it little by way of surface area or substance. However, come summer, these elusive plants find its extrovert side. It throws flower stems straight up from the water surface, each decorated with large, bright golden flowers resembling those of a snapdragon. But for me, the bladderwort's beauty isn't in its blooms, rather in its game-changing design. This is a plant of 1,000 mouths. Beneath the water surface, each of its strands is adorned with hundreds of bladders, just 2 to 5 millimeters long, which give the plant its name. The bladders functions as both stomachs and highly complex traps, all the better for ensnaring and then devouring unsuspecting passerbys. How does bladderwort capture and kill its prey? Let's see, should we read it? Well, yeah, it's a pretty short little tidbit. We'll go ahead and read it. I'm wondering if we'll read it because I got a video of its doing, because it's hard to describe, but we'll give it a shot. Let's try it. To set a trap, the plant pumps water out of the bladder, causing its thin walls to buckle inwards, storing elastic energy. The trap door closes and the unit is primed. Around the mouth of the trap are various bristles. Some are long and filamentous and serve as baffles, funneling free-swimming animals towards the deadly trigger, a pair of shorter hairs attached to the spring-loaded trap door. When an animal, in this case our doomed water flea, stumbles into these trigger hairs, the door buckles enough to break the seal, causing an immediate release of elastic energy and a swift inward rush of water that sucks it helplessly into the trap, a fate that is sealed when the door swings shut. All this happens in 3 to 4 milliseconds. So when they say fast, they mean fast. So, okay, you picture it. You got a bladder here. That's my bladder, right? You got the filamentous hairs. I don't really entirely know what that means, but that's what these are, filamentous hairs that guide the prey in. You got the little tiny short hairs, and when it hits those hairs, the trap sucks up like this, and it sucks the little flea into the stomach. And then the little fucker dies. Deprived of oxygen, the flea soon suffocates. Within a few hours, it has become a nutritious soup, broken down by digestive enzymes released from the inside of its planty prison, as well as a community of bladder-dwelling microorganisms. The whole dastardly process can even be witnessed through the translucent walls, which that's what we're going to view. As well as water fleas, copepods, and nematodes. The traps can ensnare larger mosquito larvae and even tadpoles. These often get stuck in the door and are thus slowly digested alive, getting sucked in a little further each time the trap is triggered. Ooh, that's horrible. I like tadpoles. You know what? Fuck bladderworts. I just decided. I'm not a bladderwort fan. A bladderwort trap is a highly effective mechanism for catching insect prey. Around a dozen insects can be caught in one go and the plant can reset itself, pumping out any excess water and resealing itself within 20 to 30 minutes, ready to capture additional prey. The animal diet of these diminutive aquatic triffids allows them to subsidize their diet from photosynthesis with nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. So, that is the bladderwort. And let's take a look at how it eats these poor little creatures. And if it doesn't give us a good view of the flowers, let me just kind of scroll through this. We'll take a picture of it just so we can see what these flowers look like. It doesn't look like it does. Either way, we'll dive into it. This is another quick video. Again, this is from Animal Logic, the YouTube channel that we just visited. We're going to view them again. If you like cool videos about various animals and plants, give them a like and a subscribe. So there it was. You caught it. There's multiple instances of it. Watch it. See that? Oh, that looked like a little octopus getting sucked in there.
Blink, and you'll miss this aquatic carnivorous cutie's strike. In just a few milliseconds, it sucks in its prey at up to 4 meters per second, trapping its victim in a watery grave to be digested for precious nutrients. These unique and complex suction traps make it the fastest known plant in the world. This is the bladderwort.
Oh, there's the flowers. Whole field of them. That's crazy. They're not super pretty, but, you know, I'm not a flower guy. So.
I'm Tasha the Amazon, and you're watching Floralogic. Today we're talking about Utricularia, which is Latin for small bag. We also know them as bladderworts, which, after squirting cucumber, is runner-up for euphemism of the year.
This genus of over 200 species of carnivorous plants is found in freshwater lakes, marshes, streams, and waterlogged soil on every continent but Antarctica.
Given their adaptability to whatever their environment throws at them, you're likely to find them anywhere where there's shallow water or boggy conditions. Don't forget to bring your waders.
Bladderworts are divided into two categories: terrestrial, living in wet, waterlogged, or temporarily flooded areas, and aquatic, either suspended and free-floating on the surface, or fixed with a few shoots nestled in the substrate.
The main above-board attraction on these rootless plants are their colorful snapdragon-like flowers.
Such a wide range of species
Those are
also
pretty.
means that bladderwort blooms come in a rainbow of colors, from red to yellow to purple to pink and white.
We've mentioned before that Charles Darwin was a huge carnivorous plant head. In his 1888 book, Insectivorous Plants, he says,
The bladderworts are kind of winning me over again, you know. I was a little bit pissed about the tadpole eating, but, you know, they got cool looking flowers, so.
the bladders offer the chief point of interest. And indeed, they do.
The bladder in bladderwort comes from the tiny sacs under the surface that the plant uses to suck in its prey at turbo speeds. Its victims include zooplankton, water fleas, aquatic worms, amoebas, and mosquito larvae, to name a few.
Fighting mosquitoes at the source? That's my kind of carnivorous plant.
The expression hair trigger is an apt description of the mechanism behind the bladderwort's impressive ability to capture its prey. Tiny hairs on each bladder trigger it to spring open so quickly that a vacuum-like force sucks in whatever set off the trap. The door then slams shut, sealing the delicious snack inside.
While the traps of the bladderworts are the smallest of all carnivorous species, ranging from 1 to 6 millimeters, they win the prize for the most sophisticated. Sorry, Venus flytrap. Better luck next millennia.
I disagree with that statement.
Suck in its
That's some fake news right there.
prey at such super speeds, each hermetically sealed bladder has negative pressure compared to the water around it. When the trap is triggered, water shoots inside, taking its victims with it.
The bladder is lined with two types of glands. One which secretes digestive enzymes to zoopify their prey and absorb the nutrients, and one which is responsible for pumping water. But glands aren't all you'll find in a bladderwort sac.
Did you see it?
That sounded weird.
I told you not to blink.
Within each tiny sac live commensal microorganisms, bacteria, microfungi, algae, and more. In this relationship, the microorganisms get easy access to food in exchange for helping the bladderwort break down its prey. But it's still not always clear to researchers which microorganisms are commensal and which are actually prey themselves. The ones that can't survive the low oxygen environment of the sealed bladder trap likely become the appetizer for the bladderwort's next meal.
There's still a lot that scientists don't understand about how Utricularia's complex bladders break down and absorb nutrients, and the detailed role that commensal microorganisms play in the digestion. Maybe one of you aspiring botanists will one day crack the code on Utricularia's mysterious bladders.
Owning your very own terrestrial bladderwort requires some special care and attention. In addition to a few hours of light a day, these water-loving carnivores need continuously moist soil.
Which, after all this aquatic talk, duh.
Master their care, and you too can experience the wonder and complexity of this highly advanced carnivorous plant at home.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be growing those guys anytime soon. Glad we got to see some pictures of the flowers, though. Okay, so that's the bladderwort. And if I'm not mistaken, that is, see, I already forgot the names of the different five different traps. We had the pitfall trap, that was the pitcher plant. The ones that eat poop. The adhesive plant, not a snap, not a snare. Suction. Okay, so that's a suction style. Bladderworts coming in represent the suction bros. Okay, so there you have it. There's the bladderworts. They are an interesting plant. It is cool to watch them in action, like suck up these tiny little protozoa or whatever the fuck ever. A little bit, it's interesting. It is a cool design. I still feel like, for me personally, the sundews are the top. Sundews, and then pitchers, and then bladderworts, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, pitcher plants and bladderworts, they can tie for the last spot, but sundews are definitely cooler than both of them. So let's move on to our next entry. That would be the corkscrew plants. So the Genlisea are rare, small, semi-aquatic, tropical carnivorous plants, similar to terrestrial bladderworts. Well, good thing we just learned about those. But with distinctive and unique subterranean traps that are often described as spiraling lobster traps, which I have no idea what that would look like, but they also eat protozoans. Protozoans entering the trap can only go one way, further into the trap, where they are digested. Genocilia are less than an inch long. They are uncommon even in their own habitat, which is typically nutrient-poor, peaty wetlands or sandy seeps. They are restricted to tropical regions in Africa, Madagascar, Central and South America. So this is one of the least common of all of the carnivorous plants, especially as type-wise. There's not a lot of different types of the corkscrew plant. I believe this would be the snare type of trap. They're pretty uncommon, even as far as carnivorous plants go. Like terrestrial bladderworts, Genilezia have no roots, but rather a short stem that branches into several forked spiraling snare leaves. Leaves are typically oval spatulate shape and form a small rosette. Flowers are usually yellow or violet with a spur and 1 to 2 plus inches flowers per spike. Seeds typically come only from pollination between genetically distinct individuals. Darwin postulated that Genilezia were carnivorous, which was only proven recently. Oh, little Darwin, that smart motherfucker. The base of the stem has a bladder-like swelling that serves as a digestive chamber. Trailing from this are two arms that are twisted like a corkscrew and have a series of narrow slit openings, lined with upward-pointing hairs. Microscopic organisms, protozoans such as Parmecia, are lured into the corkscrew to work their way up the one-way path to the digestive pouch. Traps must be in very wet, soggy conditions in order for the traps to function. Genocilia may be propagated from seeds sown on damp peat and light, or more easily from leaf or root poles. Plantlets will develop from the flower bracts. So that's what your basic corkscrew plant looks like. Can we make this bigger? No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, no. Yeah, there we go. A little bit bigger. Okay, so if I'm looking at this guy, what I'm thinking is the sac is up here. And then you got here's the little chambers that they enter. You got these little hairs so that the protozoa has to keep crawling up and up and up and up until it gets to the little bladder where it's eaten alive. So a little less exciting to watch than the bladderworts. And let's be honest, the bladderworts themselves aren't the most exciting of things to watch anyways. But yeah, that is a corkscrew plant, just for future reference. So if you ever see a very long tunnel that has hairs pointing in the opposite direction, don't crawl up it. These plants are actually, the corkscrew plants specifically, there's not a lot of information about them. They're actually very difficult to find information about just because they're so rare, and they don't know a whole lot about them. Like they said, they only just recently discovered that corkscrew plants were in fact carnivorous. Up until this point, Darwin just postulated that, and people really didn't care, or they told him he was crazy. Either way, they just only recently realized that this is actually a fact. So I didn't find a lot of information on corkscrew plants. Not a lot of pictures neither. No videos of them doing their dastardly deed because it's just not that exciting to watch, I'm presuming. I did find this video. This is from Stellar Eureka, is the name of the channel. They're a pretty small channel, only 23,000 subscribers. So if you like this video, give them a like. This particular video that we're watching is the top 20 most horrifying carnivorous plants that eat insects and animals. So corkscrew made the list there. So we're going to just watch the corkscrew portion of this video. It's a short, I think it's only about a minute long, just to give us a little bit more information on this unknown plant.
Of scientific study and admiration. Named in honor of the legendary naturalist Sir David Attenborough, who has brought the wonders of the natural world into our homes for decades.
Corkscrews
the
after this.
Attenborough's pitcher plant reminds us of the endless mysteries waiting to be discovered.
There you go. There is the horribly timed advertisement that we spoke of earlier.
Corkscrew plant. These carnivorous wonders, flourishing in the damp corners of Africa and Central and South America, have turned the tables on nature's food chain. With around 30 species, these plants have evolved an extraordinary underground system to trap and digest their microscopic prey, mainly unsuspecting protozoans. Imagine a plant without roots, using instead a network of subterranean leaves.
So that's how small it is. Look at how teeny tiny that guy is. When you think of carnivorous plants, you don't think of a little baby guy like that, right? They eat really, really small things. I mean, protozoan, right? They're pretty small. So, but that's interesting how small it is.
That spiral like a corkscrew, creating a deadly maze for microfauna. The Genlisea is a botanical marvel that challenges our very understanding of plant life. These traps, invisible to the naked eye, are a testament to nature's ingenuity, ensuring these plants thrive in nutrient-poor soils by supplementing their diet.
Hair. There's the hairs going up the stem. Keep hitting my mic. So you see where those... I'm pointing at my screen. You can't see that. But you can see... Oh, here. I got a cursor for that reason. Okay. I'm still getting used to the streaming thing, so sue me. There's the hairs right there. And so the little protozoan, we'll name him Bob. Bob comes up here like, and he's just kind of crawling along. He's like, hey, I want to get out of here. But the plants are, the hairs are behind him. He can't move backwards. He's like, what the fuck? And so Bob has to crawl up and up and up until he gets somewhere up here and he gets digested.
In a most unexpected way. These plants are also record holders for having some of the smallest genomes among flowering plants, making them a hotspot for scientific research and curiosity. With their minimalistic genetic makeup and complex predatory mechanisms, these corkscrew plants offer a window into the diverse strategies life on Earth employs to thrive. Grass.
Okay, so there we go. That's the corkscrew plant. Not a lot of information. I, got to be honest, I'm with you there. Not super exciting. Okay. If I had to throw that on our list, that by the way, represents the snare trap. So if I had to organize those four, I would go the sundew and then probably the pitcher plant. I thought about it. I've been thinking about it. The bladderwort. I'm going to throw the bladderwort up there, right? I feel bad about it having such a shitty name. So then we'll throw the bladderwort up there. Then the pitcher plant, and then we'll throw up the corkscrew. Corkscrew gets last place. Pitcher plant and bladderwort, they can fight for second and third, but sundew is still at the top. But now we get into my personal fave, everybody's personal fave, when we're talking about carnivorous plants. This tends to be the only carnivorous plant that anybody knows about, the Venus flytrap. This covers the snap trap portion of those 5 different traps. So, the description. The Venus flytrap is a flowering plant best known for its carnivorous eating habits. The trap is made of 2 hinged lobes at the end of each leaf. On the inner surfaces of the lobes are hair-like projections called trichromes that cause the lobes to snap shut when prey comes in contact with them. This type of movement is called thigmonasty. Thigmonasty, that's a word. A non-directional plant response to being touched. To prevent the plant from wasting energy if prey isn't actually there, the trap will only shut when the trichromes are touched multiple times. The hinged traps are edged with small bristles that interlock when the trap shuts to ensure that the prey can't squirm out. There are other carnivorous plants in the wild, but the Venus flytrap is one of the very few that exhibits motion to actively trap its prey. See, sundew also did too. But there's your two different lobes. And then see these little red hairs? It's kind of hard to see. Can we make that bigger? Ah, screw it. There's your trichromes right there that the bugs have to touch. Okay, range. Where do they live? The Venus flytrap is endemic to North and South Carolina, but it has been introduced to a few other states, including Florida and New Jersey. It is popular as a potted plant in many parts of the world, but unfortunately most of the Venus flytraps sold have been cultivated or collected from declining wild populations. Oh, that's a bummer. The plant grows in moist, acidic soil that may be poor in nutrients. Venus flytraps need an open understory, the part of the forest below the canopy, to live. Part of what keeps the understory open is natural fires that sweep through and burn away parts of these trees and shrubs. These fires can become dangerous to humans, so often we stop them before they have a chance to provide benefits to the forest. This results in less suitable habitat for the sun-loving Venus flytrap. Interesting. That's interesting to know. Diet. The Venus flytrap gets some of its nutrients from the soil, but to supplement its diet, the plant eats insects and arachnids. Ants, beetles, grasshoppers, flying insects, and spiders are all victims of the flytrap. It can take a Venus flytrap 3 to 5 days to digest an organism, and it may go months between meals. Life history. Venus flytraps are perennial plants, which means they bloom year after year. The flowers are white with green veins running from the base of the petal towards the edges. Pollinated flowers usually give rise to seeds. Each trap on the plant can only open and close several times before it dies and falls off. Then the plant produces a new trap from its underground stems. The lifespan of the Venus flytrap isn't known for certain, but it's been estimated to live up to 20 years and possibly longer. That's kind of cool. Fun fact, like all plants, the Venus flytrap gets its energy from the sun in a process called photosynthesis. It digests insects and arachnids to get nutrients that are not available in the surrounding environment. Well, that wasn't really fun of a fact now, was it? Kind of already knew that because we're smart. We've been learning about this. And let's see, what was this? Venus flytrap. Was this more reading on it? Cultivation. Conservation. I think this was a little bit more reading on it. I don't know if we needed to do too much more reading on it. You know, what I kind of wanted to do, for whatever reason, these bad boys have been popping up on my, here, let's open up a new tab while we're here. These bad boys have been popping up on my YouTube left and right. Oh, there's the no bullshit Venus flytrap care guide.
This is your no bull guide to growing Venus flytraps in under 9 minutes. Let's go. Do not feed your plants.
Why not?
They will catch food by themselves. So honestly, do not even worry about it. They can't be underfed.
Okay, well, we're not going to spend 8 minutes listening to this guy talk about it, but that is cool. It's important to note, because this does have something to do with my next slide, that you can grow Venus flytraps. A lot of people do. This particular video, though, is by the Flytrap Garden Films. That's the name of the channel. It's a small channel, 12,000 subscribers, so subscribe to them if you're looking at growing your own Venus flytrap anytime soon. So I don't know if you guys, you know, we got these shorts all over. Ooh, here's a sundew getting its meal.
This is a predatory plant that hunts using its sticky tentacles.
Look at that.
Meet the sundew,
Rolls
the
over
otherworldly
it.
predator.
Oh, that's so cool.
Sundews are not your typical garden plant. They are carnivorous, with over 194
Ooh, those are
species
pretty.
that have a unique hunting strategy. They use glandular tentacles that secrete dew drops, which are made of complex sugar from their round glands, to lure in insects with the sweet aroma and taste.
Isn't that crazy?
Unfortunately for the insects, instead of getting a free meal, this sweet substance is super sticky, which ends up becoming a deadly trap for them. They then start gripping the victim using their leaves, completely enveloping it, and start releasing digestive enzymes to break down the prey and absorb the nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus.
All right. Sundew's kind of taking the spotlight away from the Venus flytrap right now. When we show fewer shorts, no, I wanted to show more shorts. I don't know where we go to get that done, though. Oh, shorts. That would probably do it. No, this is just scroll through them. Yeah, for some reason, probably because I researched this topic, my YouTube was chock full of Venus flytraps. I had whole bunches of videos. I should have probably saved some of them, but I suppose I did. That was one of my not so fine moments. I definitely should have done that because now it looks like they're all gone. No Venus flytrap videos anymore.
Here's what.
Yeah. Okay, we're not going to spend the whole stream trying to run through all the different shorts to find the Venus flytrap one. I guess we can say flytrap up here, right? Duh. There was a really cool video I watched of a dude feeding his Venus flytrap a slug, which was pretty interesting. Let's see how a Venus flytrap works. Oh, is that a pitcher plant eating a mouse? Okay, well, we gotta look at that.
This plant eats mice. You've heard of the Venus flytrap? Meet the pitcher plant, nature's own carnivorous wonder turning the plant food chain upside down. The pitcher plant is not your ordinary greenery. It's a sophisticated predator, found in nutrient-poor environments, from the steamy jungles of Borneo to the bogs of North America. These plants have evolved an incredible method to nourish themselves. Instead of relying solely on photosynthesis, they trap and digest insects. And yes, even small animals like mice. Each pitcher is actually a modified leaf designed to lure, trap, and digest unwary prey. The inside of the pitcher is coated with a slippery substance that, once an insect or small creature lands, makes escape nearly impossible. Down they go, into a pool of digestive enzymes that break down the victim into a nutrient-rich soup the plant absorbs. But the pitcher plant's trickery doesn't stop with its slippery slope. It emits a sweet nectar that irresistibly attracts prey right to its deadly trap. This plant eats mice.
Just drinking.
You've heard of the Venus flytrap? Meet the
I don't know
pitcher
about
plant.
that. Whoever's girlfriend that was, make sure she Listerines her mouth out before you kiss her. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Nice, nice. This is what I was looking for. Venus flytrap, carnivorous plants. There's a whole crap ton of them. I seen one video of a guy feeding his blood to his Venus flytrap. Like cut his finger open, put a few drops of blood in there, and it killed it. Turns out they don't like blood. Let's go back. Let's just watch one of these guys in action just to see. There we go.
Even though Venus flytraps can catch wasps, they are one of the few insects that can escape. There are a few reasons that make wasps one of the most difficult prey to catch. Firstly, we all know wasps have stingers. And trust me, those stings hurt a lot. Now usually, when something attacks a wasp, they attack right back. However, as you can see, it doesn't affect the plant. But wasps are also extremely strong. You'll see just how strong this wasp is as it almost pushes its way out.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
However, I don't think it believed in itself because it gave up. Yet, a wasp's secret weapon are their incredibly powerful and sharp jaws. They usually cut through the walls of the trap and break free. In spite of this, it couldn't get a good grip on this flytrap. Even though Venus flytraps can catch...
That's how it happens. Fuck you, wasps. Okay, so we've all seen that before. Everybody's seen how Venus flytrap kind of works for the most part. If you just type it into YouTube Shorts, as you've seen, there's a dozen. Yeah, cutie. That's like the Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah, it is. Like, I think that's what the Little Shop of Horrors was. What's the word? Influenced by was the Venus flytrap. I don't know though. We got a couple slides coming up of some more interesting carnivorous plants that exist that might have been more of a influence or inspiration for the Little Shop of Horrors. I know you love that movie though because they sing. Any movie that has a singing, man-eating plant in it, though, is pretty cool in my book. So it is a pretty awesome movie. You know, I bought that movie for you months ago on my Vudu, and I don't know if you ever watched it. We should watch that one of these nights. It's a pretty good movie. But yeah, that one looks the closest to the Little Shop of Horrors. Seymour. That's the name of the plant, Little Shop of Horrors. But we've all seen how that works. Oh, you did watch it. Okay, good. Good to know. Yeah, it's a good movie, though. Oh, the day after I bought it. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. I enjoy that one. I like Rick Moranis. Anything with Rick Moranis in it is a pretty good one. So, but so we've all seen how that works, right? Even if you haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors like my cutie pie, we've all seen how that trapping mechanism works, right? But I did want. Wait, what is this? Oh, here, this is care. So I did have a page saved, or if you wanted to grow your own Venus flytrap. Here's a little information about it. So where do you grow Venus flytraps? Well, let's take a little listen. Let's read on. Burp. Okay, instead of originating one planet away from Earth, Venus flytraps are perennials native to boggy areas of coastal North and South Carolina. They grow in moist, acidic soils in full sun, but most varieties survive winter outdoors only in zones 8 through 10. We might be able to grow those then, hot stuff. We're zone 8, I believe, or zone 6 to zone 8 is where we kind of sit. So, although some varieties can live in colder zones with protection, most gardeners grow them as houseplants that summer outdoors and winter indoors. Gardeners in cold winter climates should grow Venus flytraps in a moist environment such as an open terrarium that can go indoors during the winter. So, here's some care tips for your Venus flytrap. Light. Venus flytraps do best in at least 6 hours of bright sunlight per day. When they are grown inside under artificial lights, keep flytraps 4 to 7 inches away from fluorescent lights. If your plant's traps don't show a pink interior or the leaves look long and spindly, provide them more light. That's a nice tip. Soil and water. Venus flytraps thrive in poor, acidic soil that stays damp but still has good drainage. Avoid using regular potting soil, some of which may have added fertilizers. A blend of 1/3 perlite and 2/3 sphagnum peat moss provides the best drainage and moisture retention. Temperature and humidity. They prefer temperature 70 to 95 degrees, although some varieties can survive 40 degrees with with protection. Okay, you want to keep the environment humid. That's not a problem in Nashville. What you feed a Venus flytrap. Oh, here we go. Although Venus flytraps are carnivorous, they can go for long periods, a month or two, without eating insects. If you grow them outdoors, they'll get enough to eat naturally. If you're growing Venus flytraps indoors, you'll have to feed them small bugs such as flies and beetles periodically. When you're feeding a flytrap, don't give it any insects larger than 1/3 of the size of the trap. Otherwise, the trap won't be able to fully close and begin digesting the food. It doesn't matter if the bug is alive or not, but the trap needs to be triggered by movement before it will close. For dead prey, after placing the bug in an open trap, gently touch a small paintbrush to the inside of the trap until you see the trap start to close. Only trigger traps to close when there is food for the plant. Playing with the traps just to make them close wastes the plant's energy, which can lead to its decline. Okay, and this is a little bit more on it, but we'll leave those of you who are interested in this, if you find this video on YouTube and you're excited about the prospect of growing your own Venus flytraps, I'll leave you to go over this. This is bhg.com. Oh, Better Homes and Gardens is the name of the website where you can go to get some of this information. I'm sure if you just type it into Google, you'll find plenty of websites though that give you good tips and tricks for growing your own Venus flytraps. But what I wanted to go over here for the last slide on flytraps is all the different kinds of flytraps that exist. If we go back here, we got several different types of Venus flytraps. They got the Red Dragon, the King Henry, the Gremlin, the Big Mouth, the B52. As a matter of fact, I was going to save. It was too many web pages for me to save to go over each one. But let's go over here, go to Google, and let's throw up Google Images. So you can see some of these cool types of flytraps that they have. Because some of them are pretty wicked. Let's look at, I think it was the Red Dragon. Let's check out Red Dragon. That's a good movie, by the way, Red Dragon. It's the 3rd installment, I believe, of the Hannibal series. Really creepy movie. Check these guys out. Aren't those pretty? Bright red Venus flytraps. Bright red with a little green on the inside. Super cool. Red dragons. Those are pretty neat. Let's see. You had the believe King Henry was a pretty normal one. Gremlins. I like that we have 2 Venus flytraps that are named after horror movies. The Gremlin Venus flytrap. Let's check it out. So this is your kind of typical green, but they're smaller. If you look at them, they're a lot smaller than your regular Venus flytraps, it looks like. But super bright green. Super duper bright green Venus flytraps with really long teeth too, which is kind of cool. And then we had Big Mouth. Okay, so that was the one I didn't want to check out. So there is a reason they call this the Big Mouth, because it has a really big fucking mouth. These are some of the bigger Venus flytraps that exist. Really wide mouths, obviously, like Seymour. But you're pretty typical looking Venus flytrap, though. If we go over here to this slide, here's a whole series of different kinds of Venus flytraps. You got pinnacles right here, red shark teeth. The red shark teeth is one of the darkest red colored plants in our collection. The FTS Archangel, ooh, that's kind of a pretty one. The cheerleader, a bizarre looking misshapen trap that looks reminiscent of pom-poms used by cheerleaders. That's kind of crazy. Look at that guy. That is wild. Whoa. Crazy. Yeah, so it turns out there's a whole lot of DCXL was another largest flytrap they've ever seen. SD Draco. Ooh, look at that. Vitiligo. That's neat. This one's got, instead of having those spine teeth, it's got like serrated edges. Those are neat looking ones. They look like mouths with the red inside. Microdent versus wine rot. Red fused petiole. The incredible red Hulk. FTS Big Behemoth. Ooh, look at that. Trev's Dracula. Ooh, that's kind of a pretty one, right? Wow. Yeah, so it turns out they have a whole bunch of hybrid breeds. Ooh, look at that one. That's got some big ass little spines on it, right? Bimbo. We got one called Bimbo. Why not? Kim Jong. Is that a real? Look at that guy. That looks like Seymour. Sawtooth piranhas. Oh yeah, these are kind of cool. Look at those serrated edges. Look like they'd cut you. I'm sure they're pretty nice and soft. Purple haze. So look at, we got all different kinds of types of Venus flytraps here. Turns out that they make a whole lot of different varieties of them. Gap teeth. G.J. Sher Khan. The whale. Guava sawtooth. So yeah, the list goes on and on and on. These are different hybrid breeds that you can purchase for your indoor Venus flytrap growing project, which is kind of cool. So I thought that was neat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save some. You know what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take a quick break because we got about 40 minutes left in the stream. I need to wash my mouth out with some Listerine because I still got like an ear throat thing that's going on right now. So I'm going to go gargle some Listerine, and then I'm going to pull up some extra web pages that we have. So we're kind of finished with going over my favorite types of carnivorous plants. We covered one for each. Oh, no, we're not. Hold on a second. We are not. I'm glad I took a gander at my note cards. I did want to go over one more type of trap that exists. Let's pull this up, the water wheel. There we go. We've got a couple videos here. The water wheel plant is a carnivorous underwater snap trap. So we have 2 different versions of the snap traps. Oh, you're right. Seymour is the guy who feeds the plant. The plant's name is Audrey 2. That's right. Okay, I forget about that. Good call, Cutie Pie. Appreciate you. Seymour is Rick Moranis, the guy with the glasses, right? That's Seymour. Okay, yep. Got my my musical expert over here, Cutie Pie. She loves musicals. Yes. Okay. Good. Thank you, Cutie. Appreciate you. So yeah, the water wheel plant is another type of snap plant, like Audrey 2 would be a snap type trap. So yeah, let's go over this, learn a little bit about it, and then I think this had a video on this particular. Yep, we have a little video right here. I think it is. Yeah. Now this will be super quick. What did I have over here? I think these were just a couple pictures. Yeah. Well, sidestep that article for now. But let's check out the water wheel. This was just kind of another variation on the snap trap that the Venus flytraps use. Okay, so billabongs in the northern Kimberley are welcome oases of color in an otherwise brown landscape. This one reflected the clear blue sky broken up by water lilies and scattering of yellow nymphoid flowers. A ring of trees surrounded it, taking advantage of the permanent water source. Okay. Don't know. Okay. This is about a guy telling us a story. That's kind of a bummer. Here we go. The water wheel plant. The water wheel plant is carnivorous. It grows snapping traps underwater to hunt small insects, fish, and tadpoles. They grow only in freshwater wetlands and have been devastated by habitat loss. 3/4 of its surviving population grows in the exclusion zone surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site. Was too slow to get that burp. Interesting. So, the water wheel plant must surely be among the most fascinating plants in the world. Its genus dates back 50 million years, and although we know of many species from the fossil record, A. vesiculosa is the only modern species. The water wheel plant is a submerged aquatic plant, first discovered by botanists in 1696 and studied by the likes of Charles Darwin. He seems to really enjoy carnivorous plants, that guy, and is the only species to have evolved snap trap carnivory underwater. It takes just 100 milliseconds for the snapping leaves to close upon small, unsuspecting aquatic invertebrates such as mosquito larvae, one of the fastest movements in the animal kingdom. Although the water wheel plant also photosynthesizes, it needs to eat prey to get enough nutrients to grow. Sure, we already know that. Uniquely, the water wheel plant is a global clone, with virtually no genetic differentiation between populations or different continents. That's pretty crazy. Wow. Growing in more than 40 countries across 4 continents, from subarctic regions of northern Russia to the southern coast of Australia, and from western Africa to eastern coast of Australia. Yet despite this global distribution, the water wheel plant occupies a very small ecological niche, and grows only in the shallow and acidic waters of nutrient-poor freshwater swamps. The water wheel plant is sensitive and is often the first species to disappear when these habitats become degraded. Interesting. Let's watch this video on it. Oh, this is only 39 seconds. So there's a little plant right there. Get out face. So it looks a little bit like a Venus flytrap. You got the top and the bottom little pincers. I think it's about to eat this little guy. Oh, look at that. Almost got him. Not quite, though. Ooh, got that one. I think those are mosquito larvae. Good. Eat that little fucker. Oh, yeah. He's in for it. He's done. Yeah, so quick little video on how the water wheels work. This is how they look. Can we make that bigger? No. It's a big, looks like a big long vein. Got some little offshoots, and on those little offshoots are the little snappers. So it's like basically an underwater Venus flytrap, which is kind of cool, right? Okay, so there you have it. You got 2 snap traps with the water wheel and the Venus flytrap. You got the snare trap, which would be the corkscrew. You have the, oh shoot, what was it called? Not snare, not snap. I'm gonna have to even go back further. Again, the bladderwort. What was the bladderwort? got snare, snap. We had the pitcher plants, which were our pitfall plants. We had the adhesive plants, which was the sundews. And then snare. Did I say snare? Snare. Oh, yeah, that was a corkscrew. No, we want suction. Gosh, snare, suction, snap. And then the suction traps, which was your bladderworts. So out of those 5 right there, we have the bladderworts. I think that's 6. Bladderworts for your suction, your, let's go in order. Pitcher plants, sundews, bladderworts, corkscrews, Venus flytraps, and your water wheels. So, in my opinion, if I had to say which was the coolest, Venus flytrap, baby. Totally, all the way. That's just, whenever you think of carnivore plant, that's the first image that comes to mind, right? So, that's my guy. I'm going for Venus flytrap first. And sundew is still second. I'm still throwing sundew in second. It's got that freaky little alien tentacle that just sucks up its prey like that. It's fucking wicked. I'm going to put in, it's pretty too. I'm going to put that as number 2. Number 3, I'm going to throw in the water wheel, I think is number 3 with the snapping. I think it deserves the number 3 spot. And then I'm going to put the pitcher plants, and then I'm going to throw in the bladderworts, and then corkscrews. So that's my get. So I'm going to leave you to think about it for a minute. I'm going to go take a quick break. We only got about 30 minutes left now. I'm going to take about a 5-minute fiver, take a fiver so I can go swish my mouth out. And then I need to load up some other web pages for you guys to take a gander at. So I'm going to do that real quick. Y'all enjoy this really nice looking Be Right Back screen.
IRS e-file is now open. Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your
All right. Testing 1, 2. There we go. I hear myself. My handsome voice. All right, we're back. So, we went over 5 different types of traps that the carnivorous plants usually employ, and my favorites from each group of traps. Now we're going to go over a little guilty pleasure. This is the part of the stream I was excited about. It's kind of the reason why I ran through everything else. We're going to go over the crypto plants. Cryptid plants, not crypto plants. These aren't plants that you trade with cryptos, Bitcoin plants. These are cryptid plants. They are mythological plants, plants that are rumored to exist. And we're going to start with the man-eating tree of Madagascar. Ooh, I'm excited for this. As cool as Venus flytraps are, man-eating trees take the cake. So, Madagascar is home to many unusual creatures, like satanic leaf-tailed geckos, AAs, or IIs, giant jumping rats, and leaf bug nymphs. But for many years, the strangest forms of life on the island was believed to be a tree that ate people. I'm going to have to look up that other shit. Satanic leaf-tailed geckos? How are they satanic? What do these geckos do that's so satanic? And IIs? I don't know what an II is, neither. That's pretty crazy, though. I'm going to have to maybe do a stream on Madagascar, I guess, because it sounds like they got some crazy shit over there. Australia, too. You could do a whole 2-hour stream on the shit in Australia that'll try to eat you. So that's definitely worth doing at some point. Anyways, it all started with a New York World article published on April 22nd, 1874. The story went into great detail about the tree and the primitive Mikodos tribe that worshipped it, as described in a letter written to Dr. Emilius Bredlowski by the hungry plants discoverer Carl Lech. We're going to go ahead and call him Leech for reasons you will see here soon. The Mikodos reportedly lived in caves, wore no clothes, and had no religion beyond that of the awful reverence which they paid to the sacred tree. And they were all short. None stood taller than 56 inches. Leach found the man-eating tree near the bend in a stream and vividly described it as such. If you can imagine a pineapple, 8 feet high, thick in proportion, resting upon its base and denuded of leaves, you will have a good idea of the trunk of the tree. From the apex of this truncated cone, at least 2 feet in diameter, 8 leaves hung sheer to the ground, like doors slung back on their hinges. These leaves, which were joined at the top of the tree at regular intervals, were about 11 or 12 feet long, and shaped very much like the American agave or century plant. They were 2 feet through the thickest part and 3 feet wide, tapering to a sharp point that looked like a cow's horn. Very convex on the outer surface and on the inner surface slightly concave. This concave face was thickly set with very strong thorny hooks, like those upon the head of the cone. These leaves, hanging thus limp and lifeless, dead green in color, had in appearance the massive strength of oak fiber. The apex of the cone was a round, white, concave figure, like a small plate set within a smaller one. This was not a flower, but a receptacle, and there exuded into it a clear, treacly liquid, honey-sweet, and possessed of violent and intoxicating soporific properties. From underneath the rim, I don't know what soporific means, but from underneath the rim, so to speak, of the undermost plate, a series of long, hairy green tendrils stretched in every direction towards the horizon. These were about 7 or 8 feet long each, and tapered from 4 inches to a half an inch in diameter. Yet they stretched out stiffly as iron rods. Above these, formed between the upper and under cup, 6 white, almost transparent palpi reared themselves towards the sky, twirling and twisting with a marvelous, incessant motion, yet constantly reaching upward. Thin as reeds and frail as quills, apparently, they were yet 5 or 6 feet tall, and were so constantly and vigorously in motion, with such a subtle, sinuous, silent throbbing against the air, that they made me shudder, in spite of myself, with their suggestion of serpents flayed, yet dancing on their tails. Ooh. Now, it's hard to envision, but we do get a photo, not in this article, but in one of the articles. We'll take a little gander at the photo so you can kind of visualize it a little better. Anyways, the explorer claimed his observation was cut short by natives shrieking wildly around the tree, but the interruption gave him the opportunity to witness an eating ritual. Liche wrote that the tribe surrounded a woman and, using javelins, forced her to climb to the top of the tree, where she became dinner. The slender, delicate palpi, with the fury of starved serpents, quivered a moment over her head. Then, as if by instinct with demoniac intelligence, fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms. Then, while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wilder, to be instantly strangled down again into a gurgling mean, the tendrils, one after the other, like great green serpents with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracting themselves, and wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening, with the cruel swiftness and savage tenacity of anacondas fastening upon their prey. So they choked her out, basically. Liche was horrified at the sacrifice. May I never see such a sight again, he wrote. Still, he continued to make notes and found a smaller tree that caught and ate a lemur. For the next 14 years, Liche's description was widely believed until a publication called Current Literature exposed the story to be pure fiction, written by a reporter named Edmund Spencer. Carl Liche, Dr. Fridlowski, and the Mikodos tribe were figments of his imagination, and despite the existence of carnivorous plants like Venus flytraps, no plants eat humans. Or do they? Yet not everyone read current literature, and some explorers continued spending time on Madagascar searching for the mysterious tree. A 1933 article reported that a group of adventurers, including a botanist, a mineralogist, and a scientist, would be led by former military captain L.R. de la Hurst on a private expedition to find the tree. I can tell you this, Hurst said, it does eat human beings. It is kept a very close secret, and natives are not too keen on pointing out the locality. Chiefs have told me that sacrifices are periodically offered to the tree. I hope, if possible, to take cinema pictures of the actual ceremony. They found nothing, but at least they came back uneaten. So that is the myth of the Madagascar man-eating tree. But it's not the only man-eaters. Man-eating trees are a myth. Update, trees don't eat women either. Oh, well, that's good. So here is a general drawing of what this person was talking about. It's a little drawn down to scale. Supposedly this tree was much, much bigger, but this is a general gist, right? A tree with tentacles, basically, which isn't too far off from what we see with the sundews, right? They do the whole octopus tentacle thing, right? So let's see. Is this more of the... Yep, this is about the Mikodos tribe, inhospitable savages feeding a woman to this plant. That was the article that we just read. The article included excerpts from a letter supposedly sent by Carl Liche that claimed he had witnessed the Mikodos tribe's sacrifice of a woman to the tree. His letter extravagantly detailed the tree, which allegedly had a trunk like an 8-foot-tall, thick in proportion pineapple with 8 leaves, yada yada, goes about describing what we already described. Falsehoods like this one weren't all that unusual, but this media hoax was unique in that interest in it didn't die off over time the way it typically did with others. It wasn't until nearly 15 years later, in 1888, when a man named Frederick Maxwell Somers reprinted the story in the second issue of his magazine, Current Literature, that it was debunked. Somers found almost every detail in the story was fictitious, including all of the people who were referenced. The Mikodos tribe was not even an actual tribe. The man-eating tree was pure fantasy. The only thing even remotely accurate about the story was the source it was credited to, Graff and Walter's magazine. It was a real magazine, but even then there were many inaccurate details. The magazine was a real German scientific journal, but it was published in Berlin and not Karlsruhe, and had not printed an issue for 24 years when it reportedly published the article. Oh, wow. So yeah, after continuing to gain popularity for approximately 15 years, it wasn't easy to debunk this story. Somers described the origin of the story, asserting that reporter Edmund Spencer wrote it for the New York World. Spencer reportedly thought up the story when talking with some friends and realizing all that was necessary to produce a sensation of horror in the reader was to greatly exaggerate some well-known and perhaps beautiful thing. He wasn't wrong about that. Despite the best efforts of many, the story continued to spread. It even led some 20th century explorers to search for the species. This is the first American travel writer by the name of Frank Vincent. He was set out on search through Madagascar for the species in the early 1890s. Then Chase Salomon Osborne, a former Michigan governor, is said to have conducted the most extensive search for the man-eating tree. Despite never finding the tree, he wrote in a 1924 book detailing his search titled Madagascar, Land of the Man-Eating Tree. So there you have it. This kind of goes over a little bit more of why this, how they debunked the story. But yeah, so unfortunately, the Madagascar eating tree, although rumored to be around for 15 plus years, was not actually a thing. And I think we already went over that. Okay. But we have more. There isn't just, well, there's not a man-eating tree, as it turns out, but there might be a sheep-eating plant. Could be, I don't know. So, picture this. You're a sheep. Just a normal old sheep doing sheep things. One of those things is munching on the various green plants that come across your path. That's your diet mostly, casual chewing on plants. Your main concern in life is munching enough plants to survive while avoiding large carnivorous predators. Easy enough until one day, as you prepare to munch on a particular cactus-looking thing, it stabs you passively with a sharp barbed green arm. You move to get away, but the arm is made of a surface of needle points, each one stabbing in the opposite direction as the spike, resisting your escape in the most painful way imaginable. Eventually, you starve to death there next to the plant and decompose, your remains fertilizing the plant roots. This is thought to be the actual way of life of the Puya chilensis, a carnivorous plant in the same family as the pineapple that's native to the arid hillside of Chile. Going after not just sheep, the plant might grab up pretty much any meat product that might be caught sniffing within its spines. The internet is very, very excited about this right now because one just bloomed at the National Botanic Garden of Wales, no matter that they're blooming all the damn time in Chile. So this might not even be news. It was brought to my attention yesterday by a very excited friend who pointed to this BBC post. Well, we're not going to click on that, but let's see. Oh, this is the end of the article right here. If there is news beyond some very breathless posts on the internet about a plant that stabs its victims, it's that the Puya chilensis, Puya chilensis is not all that extreme or uncommon. There's about 1,000 carnivorous plants identified in the world, and most of them are a lot cooler. For example, those falling under the genus Utriculata sporting bladder traps, one-way sacs containing negative pressure. So we already gone over that, and then there's the Venus flytrap, yada yada. Somehow everyday bindweed seems more sinister than the sheep stabber. It's a plant specialized for wrapping around other plants like a boa constrictor, setting up a root system 20 or 30 feet down, and basically stealing every nutrient that the original plant was getting. Well, that's kind of interesting. So this guy isn't excited about the sheep-eating plant. We get that. Mr. Michael Byrne isn't cool down with the sheep eaters, but for God's sakes, the fucker just killed a sheep. How is that not exciting, Mr. Byrne? I don't know. What's your deal? Let's take a gander and watch the video on the sheep eating plant. This is the actual video that started it. By the way, this is Way Out West with Sandra and Tim is the name of the channel. They got 244,000 subscribers, so fairly big channel.
People think I'm joking when I call brambles carnivorous plants. But before you sneer, just look at the evidence.
There you go. And another one. Tiny. Two of them. Hey, darling. You're a bit stuck, aren't you?
If no one rescued this lamb, it would be dead in a couple of days.
How long have you been here?
And that's not counting attack from crows or dogs.
And round. We'll soon have you out, don't we?
Sheep caught like this give up struggling quite quickly and just stand there calmly waiting for death to arrive. They die of thirst or starvation, obviously, but often they end up on their backs and die of pneumonia. Now you might be saying, that doesn't make a bramble into a carnivorous plant just because lambs get caught in it. But again, look at the evidence. First, the motive. Obviously, the plant would benefit for years from the remains of a dead animal decaying into the ground around its roots.
And there's another one. Well done. Sheep. Look at you go.
Secondly, the means. The sheep get caught on their spines. But these spines are not just defensive. They don't just stick out straight like gorse spikes do. These are backward-facing.
Look at those nasty things. Makes a rose look like playtime.
Hooks. They actually draw the prey in towards the middle where they get caught by more hooks. The more the prey struggles, the more they get caught. No, these are actively catching the sheep, drawing them in, and then holding them tightly till they die of exhaustion and starvation, and then taking in their nutrients as the sheep rots away. Surely that's practically a definition of a carnivorous plant.
Go on, lads, go on. Where you go?
I don't know. He's kind of got a point, right? He's talking about the brambles. I don't think brambles is the same as the pua that we talked about, the initial article that we covered. We're going to go a little bit more into the puya plants, because they are really pretty plants. And I actually believe they do look like giant pineapples, which is kind of wild because they do kind of mimic the description of the man-eating tree from Madagascar, right? But listen, sheep farmer here, old Joe Bob, whatever his name is, he's got a point, right? I mean, this isn't the way you would think of a carnivorous plant, right? You don't think like Jaws, right? Seymour and his girl Audrey 2, was it Audrey 2, whichever it was. But it isn't, that's what you think of when you think of like a sheep eating plant, a big ass giant Venus flytrap, like sucking that fucker in. But it is still in a way carnivorous. It isn't getting nutrients from the meat. It isn't per se eating it. It isn't digesting the animal. So maybe that's the reason why it would never be considered carnivorous, because it isn't actively digesting anything. But it is trapping live beings, animal, in this case sheep, into it, potentially by accident. And they die because of the plant directly. They die because the plant has trapped them with those thorny brambles, those big long branches. They die. And then when their bodies decompose, their nutrients are essentially, their bodies decompose into fertilizer, is what they do. And that fertilizer later feeds the plant. So he's got a point.
And as any sheep farmer will tell you, brambles are very successful at this. They can and do kill thousands of sheep every year.
Well, there you go.
Often you see just a sad pile of wool and bones deep in a hedge, all that remains of their latest victim. All the sheep that are sheared annually don't get caught so often, and young lambs don't have long enough wool. But the ones in between are vulnerable, so we have to watch out for ours every single day. Of course, brambles are also one of our most productive and useful plants. Very importantly, they are pioneers. They can survive in grassland and are a vital first step in converting grassland back to woodland. They also produce vast amounts of pollen and nectar for almost half the year at low temperatures, essential food for insects like my honeybees.
Okay, that's interesting. So they're not all bad. They're not total assholes. But that is an interesting idea, right? So this is the Puya. The Puya raymondi. Okay. This is similar to the Puya chiliani, what have you. Here's a picture of this bad boy. The massive queen of the Andes. So it does kind of look like a pineapple, right? That's like one big giant pineapple-y penis, really. That's like a big old giant spiny thingamajigger. Not very pleasant. That thing definitely looks like you wouldn't want to run face first into it, that's for sure. So that was the Puya. The Puya Chiliano something or another was similar. It looks similar to that, which I did want to pull up that picture just for you to see, because it is kind of interesting that the man-eating tree from Madagascar was called a giant pineapple, and well, that the Puya, which is also considered quote unquote a sheep eater, looks like a giant pineapple. And then you got those brambles and how they actually do, end up killing sheep inadvertently, obviously, and they don't digest the sheep, but they do benefit from the sheep's death. Now, the king sundew, this was kind of an interesting plant. This is a real plant. This isn't a cryptid plant, but I did kind of want to read a little bit about this for you. With 2-foot leaves, the king sundew, Drosera regia, has earned its grandiose name. It is an archaic species and one of the oldest to survive to modern times. It is a distant cousin of the Venus flytrap. It leaves me both saddened and relieved that such large traps didn't make the jump to Venus flytraps. Unfortunately, D. regia is exceedingly rare in the wild, believed to only exist in 2 small colonies in South Africa. Luckily, they're relatively easy to propagate via root cuttings and cultivation and take kindly to light foliar fertilizing for maximum healthy growth. Okay, the reason I wanted to pop that up for you to read. This essentially King Sundew. Okay, we went over the sundews, right? I think this is the same. Yeah, I just opened that one twice. And this one too, for some reason. King Sundew. Oh, this is a video. I didn't know I had this one. This is just the King Sundew eating a spider. We kind of watched a lot of this, right? But that's still pretty gruesome. All those tentacles just going at that fucker. All those little spines. We sell killer plants. Well, that's a good advertisement. Yeah, so King Sundews, all right, 2-foot long leaves. Now, I don't know. Yeah, leaves shaped like swords. So these things right here are 2 foot long, okay? Those are pretty big. Now, it's not going to hurt you, right? 2 foot leaf. But shit, man, you get enough of those leaves in a small dog or like a small rodent, they can fuck it up. Now, it's a really rare sundew. Like I said, it only exists in 2 small colonies in South Africa. But that is pretty crazy, right? They got a 2 foot tall sundew that exists. That's 2 foot long leaves. That'll, I'm going to say if that's a foot, say that's like 2 feet. Enough of those can absolutely kill a small rodent, a small mammal, if they're powerful enough that the mammal actually sticks to it, right? Small lizards, reptiles, that thing can fuck it up. So, there isn't any reports of it getting bigger than that, but that's still pretty crazy. That's still menacing. Just imagine if those things grew to be 6 foot tall, then you would be having some problems. Small kids, yeah, they'd be fucked. Over with. Let's go into another cryptid. This is the last one I had for you. The and it just had to be something that I couldn't pronounce. The Inopama huida. The Inopamata huida. Inopama huida. I got to say it like 5 times fast. And I'll get it. The Inopama huida is a cryptid from Mapuche folklore inhabiting the dense dark forest of Patagonia. Derived from the Mapudungun language, this translates into the mountain climber. Oh, I should have read that first. Let's just call it that, right? Reflecting its ability to scale steep hillsides with its clawed branches. Unlike conventional trees, the mountain climber lacks roots, enabling it to move about freely within the forest. Well, that's creepy. The biology. The mountain climber is described as a surreal, almost alien-like creature, resembling a monstrous tree with claw-like branches. Its appearance is reminiscent of a walking killer, a killer tree stump, predating similar concepts portrayed in modern media. This creature's lack of roots adds to its mystique, allowing it to roam the Patagonian mountains with ease. Purported behavior. According to the Mapuche mythology, the mountain climber is feared by natives who avoid venturing into dark Andean forests where it resides. These forests are believed to be inhabited by various malevolent entities, including the mountain climber and the evil Galucho spirit. The creature's presence instills a sense of dread and foreboding among those who dare to enter its domain. Cultural significance. The fear of the forest and the creatures within them has been deeply ingrained in the folklore of the Patagonian natives. Explorers and settlers have documented the reluctance of indigenous peoples to enter the forested areas, attributing it to superstitions surrounding monsters and adverse genies. The legend of the mountain climber serves as a cautionary tale, warning against the dangers lurking in the depths of the Patagonian wilderness. So, encounters. Although there are no documented encounters with the mountain climber that exist, the tales of its existence have persisted through generations of Mapuche folklore. Explorers and travelers have observed the natives' aversion to the forested regions, further perpetuating the myth of the elusive and terrifying creature. So we have no proof of this walking tree, essentially, but there is a tribe of people in Patagonia who do think that this walking tree exists, which is kind of cool, right? They're scared of it, which, hey, look, if you saw a tree walking, you'd probably be pretty fucking scared of it too. Let's be real, right? There is no, stories, or we didn't hear much about it actually killing people. So I don't know if you could call it a man-eating tree, but it is a tree that climbs. It is called the mountain climber, right? So it is, supposedly a tree that moves. And that is creepy enough. I don't think it has to necessarily eat people. And that brings me to my last slide, the Encyclopedia of Cryptozoology, Cryptobotany. So, you know, if any of you guys, the more people discover this channel, the more they'll become familiar with it. We're going to go over a lot of cryptozoology topics on my Wildlife Wednesdays because I really like it. I just recently discovered the, I guess you could say, subgenre of cryptozoology called cryptobotany. Cryptobotany is a field in cryptobiology dedicated to the study and search for formerly undescribed plants. Due to their nature, cryptid plants are far less common than cryptid animals. An animal is mobile and will not remain in the same place for long, whilst a plant is immobile, except for the mountain climber, and therefore more likely to be formally documented and described after only a single encounter. So, there are many carnivorous plants reported, such as man-eating trees or vampire plants. We didn't go over those. We'll probably save cryptobotany itself for its own stream because it is pretty cool, but I just wanted to introduce you to the concept. There is no single dedicated work on cryptobotany, but the largest collection of information regarding carnivorous cryptid plants are contained in Carl Schucker's The Beasts That Hide from Man and Roy Mackel's Searching for Hidden Animals. You guys, if you watched my previous stream on the Jabba Fofi, you'll remember Carl Schucker's name. He was the one who heavily detailed the giant spiders in Louisiana, Cutie Pie, where you live. So, yeah, interesting, but that is a field of study, cryptobotany, the study of hidden plants. Here's that Madagascar man-eating tree drawing again. So it doesn't seem like the Madagascar man-eating tree is a thing. Seems like a big old giant fib, but it is a cool fib. Honestly, it is a neat story. Same with the mountain climber, is pretty sweet. And, you know, we did go over the puya that is said to eat sheep. They don't have a lot of information on it eating sheep, but we looked at one of them, and it is kind of crazy how those puyas look very similar to what they said the Madagascar man-eating tree looked like, right? I don't know. What does that mean? I'll let you decide. But then we went over an actual video of brambles and how they do, in fact, kill sheep and do gain nutrients from the sheep itself. They don't digest it, but that is kind of an interesting concept. Gives you a new perspective on the idea of a carnivorous plant, right? But I thought that'd be a cool way to end the stream on carnivorous plants is what about them plants that kill them sheep and eat the fuck out of them, right? And possibly a man-eating tree. On a later date, we'll probably hit a stream about cryptobotany and go over some of the more interesting hidden plants that are said to exist. But in the meantime, I'm actually outski for this stream. That makes it about a 2-hour and 5-minute stream, which is perfect time for me to go ahead and stop. I need to get some foodsy bootsies too, by the way. My tummy is hungry. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. To all those watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel and come check out the Twitch channel if you like, if you're interested in any of the topics you find on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in wildlife stuff, we cover wildlife based 2-hour-long live streams researching wildlife, various forms of wildlife, every Wednesday, Wildlife Wednesdays. So come check out the live stream on Twitch. Come in and say hi, have a conversation with me and my cutie pie. It'll be a good time. Tomorrow is Thursday, and I'll be covering on every Thursday. I cover conspiracy theory Thursday. Tomorrow is my second conspiracy theory Thursday, where I'll be covering the Large Hadron Collider and all the conspiracy theories associated with that. If you don't know what that is, it is a particle accelerator. If you don't know what that is, you have to tune in and I'll let you know, or find the video on YouTube. It'll be here eventually. And if you don't know the conspiracy theories, this particle accelerator is said to have created an alternate reality that we are all living in. It is also said to be able to create black holes that will suck up the world. It is said that it has the ability to open up a portal to hell. And then it is also said to have discovered the God particle, which has some interesting ramifications. So we're going to cover all that tomorrow. Please tune in if you like conspiracy theories every Thursday for Conspiracy Theory Thursdays, Wednesdays for Wildlife Wednesdays. And in the meantime, anybody who watched this, thank you so much for doing so. I appreciate your support. You have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye.